get my 6. Because somebody may or may not have mailed me how did I put it in the title? A freaking heaping, steaming pile of cow. You know the rest. That little asterisk, that doesn't mean to be an asterisk. That's not what it means. Replace that with a letter. You know what letter it is. Here's the culprit. Here's the potential. That's why we've got the blue rectangle out. Not just does it match the blue flannel pajama pants, but the blue rectangles mean potentially. The red circles mean that is what it is, factually. So we may be putting a red circle on this package once we open it up. Let me get a chair. All right, so guys, I wanted to sit down instead of stand right in the center and block your entire view because I want you to watch inside the forest. We're now halfway through November, which means most of the leaves are gone. We still got some clingers. These are oak leaves. They actually don't fall until about Christmas time. They're the last to go. But we can see quite a ways into the forest. For instance, the distance from this tent here at Camp Bigfoot Sasquatch up to the very top of that ridge line through the forest is about 250 to 300 yards. Okay, so we can see quite a ways back in there. So watch for movement, but more importantly, listen for strange things, in particular, very creepy, eerie screams. And here's why I'm telling you this. Not just did we hear one ourselves. I'm going to uncover my ears so I can hear better. It's a little bit chilly. We have a hawk with us today. And other than that hawk, it's very eerily quiet up here. So a couple of weeks ago, we did capture that blood-curdling scream on camera, just as we started our night hunt video. Came up here looking for it, got some yellow eye shine, something very creepy. But now, last night, something else happened, okay? Out of the blue, we got a call from one of our friends, one of our very good friends, and his wife is out of town doing some training for her job, and he wanted to bring his sons camping at our place. And so we said, sure, bring them up. And so they came, and they came up. We keep our tent set up, and our friends set their tent up here. And now my buddy, I think he thinks I'm kind of corny or something, or maybe full of what may or may not be in this box. Perhaps an entire box of heaping, steaming cow caca. We're going to find out. I'm going to open it up on camera. Okay, I'm going to give you the backstory on this. And I warn the vertically challenged individuals who live under bridges not to send me this kind of stuff, because when you harass someone through the mails, that's a federal offense, right? So the first thing I did was look at the return address, and I'm getting back to my story. You know what the return address says? Blind shipping. And I'm not making this stuff up. Look. So this leads me to believe this is a big old box of steep, cow caca. Look at that. Blind shipping. That's where it came from. So somebody who sent this did not want me to know who they were. So I have my suspicions, and this is a heavy box. So I brought a knife up to cut the tape, and it works as a very proper paperweight there to hold this on, because potentially this is a box of cow dung. And you're like, Crazy Lake, what are you talking about? Well, first I got to finish my story about last night. So I pull my buddy off, and he's kind of to the side. He's kind of a naysayer. I think he thinks I kid around with a lot of these videos, tongue-in-cheek type stuff. And some of them I do, but not in regards to what may or may not be living in the forest behind my home. And so I pulled him off to the side, and then one scares kids. I said, look, now we've seen bears up here 6 times this year. He goes, yeah. He says, and he's a very experienced outdoorsman. He's a combat veteran of multiple tours. And he's, well, I don't want to give you too much information. I have some really neat friends in some very interesting places. That's all I'll say. He says, I don't care about the bears because, if they smell us, they won't come around. I said, well, that's true. I said, well, you know about the other things that may or may not be around here in the woods. And of course he laughs at me and rolls his eyes. And so I know he knew what I was talking about. And I said, no, seriously, I have got to tell you. And I told him about the blood-curdling scream. And he says, well, could have been a mountain lion, even though they're not supposed to be here. They probably are. I have a big flock of birds moving in to watch and listen for some reason. And then I said, yeah, I know. And then he said, well, it could have been a bobcat. Those are around here. And I said, yeah, I know. And I said, I've heard bobcats before, and this was not a bobcat. Tell you, when those birds come around like that, I've learned to take it as a warning, and so I do a 360 perimeter check. There was a light rain this morning, so the leaves are wet. Something could be creeping up on us back here in the woods, and we'd never hear it. So I tried to be more descriptive in describing this scream, and my friend said to me, he goes, foxes make a number of very strange noises. And he said, but there's something that makes a noise very similar to the noise you're describing that you probably not considered. And I said, well, what is that? And he said, a rabbit being killed by a fox or an owl or, any sort of predator that would kill a rabbit. And I thought, you're right. Rabbits can make noises very similar to that. And number two, I hadn't considered that. And it's crazy that I hadn't, because we used to raise rabbits. One of the first things we used to do here on our homestead and on the channel, you might remember, we've still got some old videos on here about raising rabbits. We used to breed them and sell them. We got out of it for several reasons, but the males are very mean. This is what we learned. Listen, wildlife, I've come to say it this way. Wildlife, animals, they're all beautiful and they're so cute. Until you actually learn to observe them very closely and see that actually they're trying to kill each other always. I mean, basically, if you're an animal, if you exist in the wild, you basically try to kill and eat anything smaller than you, and you try to hide and run from anything bigger than you because it's trying to kill you. I mean, minus the herbivores like the deer, but there's stuff trying to kill deer. They might not be trying to kill stuff other than grass and my trees. But you get the point. So anyway, the male rabbits would, after they were just maybe 3 months old, they become very aggressive. They would try to kill each other. And the way they do that is through grabbing each other by the scrotum with their teeth and ripping it, and then they bleed out and die. That sounds very gross. That sounds very descriptive. But that's how rabbits do it in nature. That's how they do it in captivity. You have got to keep the bucks, the male rabbits, separated from each other, as much as you need to be concerned about keeping them separated from the does, other than for purposes of breeding, because they will just kill each other. They will just kill each other. And we witnessed this, and we could be on one end of the property, and the screams they would make when they were attacked and that happened was blood-curdling. So I gave my friend, the check in the okay, you might have a point there box. But still, that screams, it was not quite that. It was a little bit off. So with all this said, last night, my buddy and his kids, they camp up here. And now, frankly, we've been going through some weird things up here on this property for several years. I have never felt as if him, her, it, or they are malicious. I've never felt as if they're going to do any harm to me or any of our friends that we have come by. But still, Dearly's afraid to camp up here, so we don't. We haven't camped up here all year. But had I felt that my friend and his sons were actually in any sort of physical danger, I wouldn't have let him camp. So, and I told him that. I said, there may or may not be, potentially, a Bigfoot Sasquatch back here in the forest. And more recently, we may or may not have picked up some wraiths on camera. Just all sorts of weird stuff up here in the woods back here. And it seems like the further we go, the weirder it gets. But he said, we'll be okay. We'll be okay. I said, okay, I'm just saying. So fast forward, me and my family go down. We spend the night in our house. Dearly and our son came up pretty early this morning, around 7, but I was still writing. I got up around 6. I wrote 2,000 words this morning before. It was light enough to see, but the sun wasn't really up. That's just how I roll. That's when I do most of my writing, is in the mornings. So after I was finished with that, I came up, had a wonderful breakfast with our friends and my family up here, dearly prepared some eggs. Well, they actually cooked everything on the campfire. My buddy brought all of his camping cookware, cast iron skillets and dishware. And he made the most amazing pumpkin pancakes. And he actually used real pumpkin. He boiled it and then smushed it down. He told me the ingredients, but I was eating them. I was like, wow, where'd you get these? From the Field and Stream store? He goes, no, I made them. They're homemade. I was absolutely amazed. So I said, did you sleep good? He said, yeah, we slept good. I said, did you hear anything strange? And he said, kinda, sorta. And this guy, he's kind of an analytical type. He's very intelligent and he doesn't speak much, but when he does, what he says is very profound. It's worth listening to. You know, he doesn't waste words like me. He's not a guy like me who can turn a 2-minute long story into an 18.5-minute long story. You know, I had a guy, I was out splitting wood with a buddy yesterday and he accused me of having that ability. And I said, why, thank you. He said, well, you might want to work on it. So I don't think it was a compliment, but I don't know. Maybe not. He said, try to tone it down to 6 minutes. We're at like 11:23 right now. So I guess I've failed my mission thus far. Okay. So anyway, I said, what this kind of sort of means. He says, well, you know, and it didn't start raining until this morning, so the leaves were kind of dry last night. He said, we heard some things walking around. Then his kids fell asleep, and then he continued to hear things walking around. He assumed it was deer. He didn't hear anything that sounded big like a bear or anything. But at one point at about 2 o'clock in the morning, he woke up. He had to come out and water the lilies. And he noticed that the fire had gone out. He was trying to keep the fire going all night so that he wouldn't have to restart it in the morning to do the cooking and whatnot. So he was restarting the fire, and he heard a blood-curdling scream come from a ridge on a mountaintop on the opposite, over far past the other side of our road. So it was still in the same general vicinity as the crow flies, but it wasn't anywhere close. And I said, so do you think it was a rabbit being killed by a fox or being killed by an owl? And he said, actually, I don't. And I said, why not? And he said, well, though the sound was very similar to that of a rabbit, there's no way that sound could have carried that far. He said, I know that what I heard was probably a couple of miles away. And I know you've got the still of the night. We're out here in the country. There's no artificial light. Last night there was no moon, so it's pitch black dark, except for the billions of stars you can see up above, which was great. When we came home from D.C. last week, because we spent the weekend in D.C., we got home after dark, got out of the truck, shut the door, cab light went out. It's pitch black dark. I said, look up, guys. And my wife and kid was like, wow, we couldn't see those in D.C. I was like, I know, isn't it great? So anyway, he knew that what he heard, something right in front of me, right behind the camera, but it's a bird in the brush. He knew what he heard was a couple of miles away. So he felt that it couldn't have been a rabbit because there was no way an animal that small could make a sound that would carry that distance. And just when I thought I was going to get a check in the aha, I'm right column, he starts going on about how it's probably a bobcat. Okay, whatever. Some will believe, some won't. So what? You know, whatever. It is what it is. But anyway, steaming, wait a minute. Freaking steaming, heaping pile of cow, you know what. These things happen, okay? So I'm sitting up here this morning with my buddy and my family, and I see an unmarked white van pull up to our gate down here at the end of our property. We can see it here. It's half a mile away, but you can see it from up here because we're on a high point. Dude gets out of the van, and he looked like that guy on I Know What You Did Last Summer. Had on the dark raincoat with the hood on, but it wasn't raining. The rain had stopped, so that struck me as suspicious, you know. So then he gets this very box, leaves it on the gate, gets in the van and speeds away. And I said, someone just left a box of something at our gate. And my buddy says it's probably Amazon Sunday delivery services. And I said, no. He goes, oh, yeah, we get that all the time. I said, yeah, you do. You live in town. I said, they don't do that in some rural areas, this being one of those rural areas. You know, and I reminded him, I used to work for the post office, and I used to go in there Sundays at 8 a.m. to do Amazon delivery, get home at 10 p.m. That's not who it was. It wasn't a postal truck. We've never gotten any sort of Amazon delivery on Sunday way out here where we live. And I said, well, I said, maybe you're right, because I didn't want to come across as paranoid. I said, maybe you're right, and I'll just get that, when I open the gate to let you out and I close it behind you, I'll get that box. So I got the box. I picked it up. I'm carrying it up here. It's heavy. My beautiful bride Dearly was with me, a.k.a. Giggly Girl. She's like, what do you think it is? I said, I think it's a freaking steaming, heaping box of cow. You know what? And she's like, huh? I said, I don't remember ordering anything. I mean, I'm always ordering things, but I don't remember ordering anything heavy. I've ordered some woodworking supplies and art stuff that's coming in, and you will be finding out what for soon. Like this week sometime, maybe. Potentially. Okay, I like that word better. So anyway, she goes, who would mail somebody else a box of cow crap? And I said, well, one person was an old college buddy of mine who, ironically, his name was Daniel, just like our son. I'm not going to say his last name. And she said, what? So I told her the story, and I'm going to tell you this story. Listen, Mark Twain said, fact is stranger than fiction. And nonfiction is harder to write than fiction, because nonfiction has to at least make sense. Fiction, you can kind of, doesn't, or no, fiction is harder to write than nonfiction, because fiction has to at least make sense. Nonfiction, real life, so many times it just doesn't make sense, and we just take it for what it is. Here's one of those stories. This is one of those true stories you can't make up. So, I'm like sophomore year of college, right? I'm living in this apartment above Main Street in a small little town where I went to college in Appalachian. And so I'm going down the stairs to where the door is, where you go out onto the street and you go out, outside. And there's this guy that I knew barely at the time, and he's dropping a FedEx box. And he looks up and he sees me. I say, hey, his name was Daniel. I said, what's up, Daniel? What are you doing? He goes, I'm returning the favor. I said, what do you mean you're returning the favor? He goes, this is for you. Then he leaves. So I go down, and here's this FedEx box. I picked it up. It's heavy, and ironically, it weighed about the same amount as this box. Okay, and it's about the same size. So that's my suspicion number one for this. Okay, well, just the van and the guy that looked like he knows what we all did last summer. That was my first suspicion. Size and weight's number two. So Daniel leaves. I pick up this FedEx box, and it's addressed to me at my apartment. And I'm like, huh. They must have delivered it to him somehow. And I didn't know where the guy lived at the time, but I figured, well, maybe he lives somewhere close by. Because, I knew who he was, and that's it, right? Thought, well, he brought me this box. So I go back upstairs with the box, grab me a kitchen knife and cut it open. And inside the box, there was a plastic bag, like a garbage bag. Inside the bag was like 20 pounds of cow crap. 20 pounds of cow crap. And I was like, what is this crap? And that's exactly what it was. It was crap. And so it was the strangest thing. And I thought, well, nobody's going to mail me 20 pounds of crap. There must be something in this crap. So I took it out back. There was a small backyard, and I laid it down, and with sticks, I kind of dug through it a little bit. There was nothing in there but crap, just cow crap. And so I threw it all in the dumpster. And I saw that guy a couple days later. I'm like, dude, what was that box of cow crap about? And he says, I'm just returning the favor. And I'm like, what favor? And he just turned around and walked off, never answered it. Well, fast forward a couple years. Turns out me and this guy became really good friends. He had been a runner in high school, and he walked on to our college cross-country team. And that year, this was like my fourth year, I actually walked back on to our cross-country team after having quit several years before that. I was on scholarship, and it felt like a job, and I hated it because they were putting all these conditions on my splits in practice, my result, and I said, screw it. So I quit. They took my scholarship away, of course, but later I walked back onto the team without scholarship. And guess what? I enjoyed it again. Crazy how that works, huh? So we become really good friends, me and Daniel. So we were in college again. So we're sitting around drinking beer one night, and he just starts laughing uncontrollably. And I'm like, what are you laughing at? And he says, that box of cow crap I sent you, that I brought to your door. I'm like, what is the story behind that, man? To this day, I don't know. And I'd forgotten about it until he brought it up. And he said, well, I was just returning a favor. And I said, I don't get that either. I mean, I never had something for you erroneously delivered to me that I took to you. What favor? He goes, the favor of you giving me a big box of cow crap. I was like, I never gave you a big box of cow crap. And he's like, you mean that wasn't you? I'm like, what are you talking about? So the story was, he opened his door one day and there was a box addressed to him. He opened it up and it was cow crap. 20 pounds of heaping, steaming cow crap. No return address. He had no who did it, or no idea who did it. But he assumed it was me. And I asked him, why did you think I did that? He said, because I knew you hated me. I was like, I never hated you. I said, I knew who you were back then, but I barely, we didn't really know each other. We've come to know each other now that we're running cross country together. We're good buddies. Why is it that you thought I hated you? And he said, because I thought you heard me booing you at track meets in high school because I was cheering for, and he named a guy who he went to high school with who was actually state champion in cross country, state champion in the 2 mile, 4th in the nation in cross country. This guy was a national class distance runner, and I actually beat this guy in the 2 mile on their home course, broke the record, and then I beat him in the state mile championships later. This is glory days, lifetime ago, okay? I used to be very, very good. What I will say about that is the older I get, the better I was, and that's a true statement. So anyway, I was like, I never noticed you booing for me while I was beating your freaking All-American teammate or whatever. So anyway, we cleared that up. And so he's like, so that wasn't you? And I said, no, I never sent you a big heaping, steaming box of cow crap. And he was like, huh, I wonder who it was. And then that was the end of it. We never talked about it again. I don't know. We don't know whoever sent this guy a big old box of cow crap. For some reason, he assumed it was me. This shows us how when we assume, we make asses of you and me, right? But he would later give me a box of cow crap. So anyway, I believe I have just received yet again a big heaping, steaming box of cow crap. We're going to open it on camera and see. Did you hear that? That was a definitive tree knock, as if him, her, it, or they are clearly saying, get on with it and open up what may or may not be a steaming, heaping box of cow crap. Keep getting my 6 because we have company. I don't want to touch this stuff with my fingers in case I'm right. Ah, ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. They have cleverly covered their cow crap with this so that when I open the box, I would not see the cow crap and I just dig right in. Little did they know I would merely grab this by this part and pull it up like this, so I did not touch the cow crap. And these vertically challenged individuals who live under bridges who do these things to me, I've said it before in other videos, they keep throwing stones my way. I keep using it to build a more solid foundation. I will use this to start my fires in my wood stove. Ah ha ha, they think they're even more clever. They covered the cow crap with a very nice piece of cardboard that I will use to protect my 8x10 photographs of me with what may or may not be potentially Bigfoot Sasquatch 40 yards down the hill. You know, in the background, those kits were selling on Etsy for $19.73. Why? Because that's the year I was born, and the link to that is in the description box below. Keep throwing your stones, trolls. Keep throwing your stones. Now, with no further ado, as my beautiful bride dearly, aka Giggly Girl, would say, Huh. I forgot I ordered these. It's not cow crap. It's print copies of my full-length novel Off Switch. Look at that guy. Kevin, I didn't put Crazy in there. Kevin Crazy Lake. But look, there I am on top of my up-armored vehicle there in the beautiful deserts of Iraq with my M4. All right. Wow. Look at this. No wonder the box was so heavy. I got a whole box of them. You know what? Somebody brought it to my attention a couple weeks ago, and I guess this slipped my mind. I didn't know. This novel, Off Switch, is available on Amazon and Kindle, but it's not available in print, and it hasn't been for a long time because I had these self-published through a different printer that's not Amazon. Well, when this person brought this to my attention, I searched and searched and searched for the manuscript for this, the finalized edited manuscript, and I couldn't find it anywhere. But then it gets better. Listen, I remembered I recently opened a P.O. box down at the post office in Charlottesville, so as not to allure too many lunatics directly to where I am physically located, so we can ship out. And guys, I'm not calling you lunatic if you're supporting us buying these things, but I've shared stories about how we've actually been stalked on YouTube before. I haven't shared the creepiest ones. I will someday, but not anytime soon. But anyway, so we could mail out the 8x10s and some really neat stuff coming up here real soon. So I thought, well, shoot, why don't I just go back to the old printer where I had these printed, order a bunch, so they will now be available in print, because this person that contacted me said, you know, I've read all your books except this one because it's not available in print. Well, now it is. And guess what? It's on Amazon. The link is in the description box of this video below. Excuse me, of all my books on Amazon. So you'll just have to scroll down to where you hit Off Switch. And it might say Kindle, but beside that, it'll say other formats, paperback. Click on that. What I'm going to do, and this is really neat, since if you do buy print copies of Off Switch, you will be getting them directly from me. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to autograph it for you. So they're $14.99, just like all my other full-length novels. I think 45,000 words. It's one of my shorter novels, but it is a full-length novel. 40,000 words plus is a novel. No, 52,000 words. That's what this is. So it'll be autographed. It's on Amazon. Links in the box. And you know what? It's nice knowing, you know, that no one actually mailed me a big steaming, heaping box of cow stuff. But I guess if that kind of thing happens to you once, it kind of leaves you a little bit gun shy, you know, so. All right, well, enough of this. Thanks for watching another video. I'm going to walk up here in the woods and see what I may or may not see or hear or may not hear. So thanks for visiting me for another episode of the PBS. The Potential Bigfoot. Sasquatch. Show.